Oh, why do people have to be so cruel?
What a question, right? Why can't people just talk? Have you ever had a conversation with someone or tried to have a conversation with someone only to realise they're not paying attention or they haven't even heard what you've said and you've ended up having to repeat yourself 4 or 5 times? Well, chances are some of this shit is going on.
Raise.
So to deconstruct this, let's go straight into the definition of communication.
So we know what we're talking about here.
All communication on God's green earth is this: transmission from one terminal to another. It's particle flow from one point to a second point. Terminal A, terminal B, communication transmission, or energy. It's energy being sent from one place to another. Now these two terminals could be 2 people, it could be something as basic as me touching my whiteboard. That is in fact communication. Particles going from me to the whiteboard, terminal 1, terminal 2, bang, physical communication, okay? So all communication is essentially that. So how is it, if it's so simple, that so many of us can't do it or get it wrong? Because there are some important elements being skipped.
Don't skip the important elements. Fucking hell, what is wrong with the world?
People, am I right? Now we can get a little more specific into that communication anatomy. Person A, let's call him like Fernandez. Person B, Don Julio. Why not? The 2 most common names I could think of coming from the heart of rural England. So, let's see here. Oh, I've got to do this presentation without laughing now. That was not a great start. Fuck's sake. Fernandez wishes to send a communication from himself to Don Julio. So what does that mean? It means he has to send energy from terminal A, which is himself, to the second terminal, which is Don Julio. So let's say Fernandez wants to talk about, I don't know, race car driving. So, racing is the subject, and he sends it to Don Julio. But for some unknown reason, Don Julio is talking to person C. Or rather, he doesn't even need to be talking to person C, but his attention is on person C. Maybe it's a really beautiful woman. And her name can be Penelope. Why not? Run out of room on the whiteboard, so I'm just going to put C brackets P, so we know it's Penelope. There we go. So this communication is coming in to terminal B from terminal A, but at present moment, terminal B has attention on terminal C. Now, why would this be? Because you can't just send communication out and expect it to be received without 2 things, and they are intention and attention. If you ask person B something much more simpler than racing, let's just say, pass the salt, please. So Fernandez puts his attention on Don Julio and says, Don Julio, can you pass me the salt, please? But while he says that, he's looking at the ground, his vocal projection is going downwards, his thoughts are about this exam he's got to take tomorrow that he hasn't properly prepared for, so his attention is elsewhere. The attention is out, and the attention is out. So in other words, he's just sending out a noise. So all Don Julio has to receive at his end of the cycle, of the circuit, I should say, is a whole lot of noise, which is just going to get confused with all the other noise that's around Don Julio, because there's lots of things going on in Don Julio's life. Look, he's got fucking Penelope, you know, with a beautiful hair and dress and like high-heeled shoes and fucking all her money and whatever. He's got all these other things he has his attention on. Once Fernandez corrects his communication, and instead of saying, Don Julio, can you pass me the salt, please? He changes that. He gets his attention back off what it was stuck on. He directs it with intention to where he wants the communication to go, which is to Don Julio, and make sure he gets his attention. Hi, Don Julio. Hey there, could you pass me that salt, please? All of a sudden, he has altered his communication. He has directed attention towards Don Julio and injected intention into the words. Now the outcome is very different. The circuit has been corrected. Don Julio no longer has attention on Penelope. Sorry, Penny. Bye-bye. She now no longer even exists for Don Julio. Why? Because someone else is sending much more interesting communication his way. Don Julio has now received Fernandez's communication about racing. The attention has allowed him to be receptive. The intention has allowed him to receive it. Now, what does this mean? This means that Don Julio, Terminal B, can send something equally powerful back to Terminal A. Also, with intention and attention. And this is a complete cycle of communication. Communication sent from the first terminal with these two factors to the second terminal. And then communication sent back in this exact same wise. That is a clean communication circuit. But if you try and send communication without these things, essentially what you're doing is this. You're just sending out a bunch of words. Nothing else. And a word by itself is just a shell. As we went over earlier, it's just a noise. It's the intention within the shell of the word that allows communication to be understood and received, and then something to be returned to it. So every time you've been out and about and have wanted to engage with somebody, but you're just not getting a response, they're not paying attention, or they reply with something completely fresh and different that wasn't even acknowledging what you originally sent out, more than likely what's happened is you just haven't knowingly sent out communication with intention. You've just blurted out some words. So what does that mean? You have to be a bit more conscious about it. You have to pay attention to the communication that you're sending out. You have to know what direction you're sending it in and why you're sending it and what response you hope to get back. It's very conscious. It's not just blurbing a load of words. So when you fill the words with the intention, it's no longer a mystery, it can be received. And then sent back. In the same way. And received back at the original end. This cycle on repeat. It's called a conversation, but a decent, healthy, proper, balanced conversation. And that, my friends, is all I have to say about it.